So my name is Midge Wilke. I have been affiliated with First Parish since 1989. In my roles at First Parish, I was just a member of the congregation for a number of years, and I would have to think back probably maybe in 2002. Yeah, I became chair. I was probably in 2002. I was asked to be on the parish, what was called committee then. It's called the parish board now. And I came onto the board and for a series of reasons became the chair. And I think I was the chair for 4 years. And after that, I was on the nominating committee. And I guess they still have a nominating committee, and was asked by Reverend Jim Sherbloom to become a deacon. So I'm a deacon as well. And I taught RE when my son is about to be 34. And so I taught neighboring faiths when he was that age. And then we also taught the coming of age. And at that point, neighboring faiths was 7th grade and coming of age was 8th grade. So I did that as well. And I've been the last couple of years the chair for 2 years and of the intern committee with Judd Wolfskill, and then 1 year with Aaron Scott. And now I guess I'm on sabbatical from active committee work right now, but that's okay. So that's my story. I think that when we came to First Parish, it was a small congregation. I don't know, people, when you're talking about the church, sometimes you talk in terms of number of households, let's say, and maybe there were 45 or 50 households back in the 1989, 1990. And I think we worked very hard to create an expansive space within the community, to work hard to welcome new members. And when Reverend David Johnson retired, at least from our church, we brought in Reverend Martha Niebank and Jim Sherbloom and had this team of co-ministers, which was pretty exciting for everybody. And I think we worked hard to, and I was chair of the parish committee at that point, to really grow the community, which we did, and growing in different age brackets, so that there were younger families as well as people like I am now who've been with the church for a long time. So we did grow, and that was a good thing. And I think COVID kind of knocked the church back on its heels a little bit. When you go to church on a Sunday, we're probably back at maybe sometimes 50 people in the sanctuary. And then you have to add the choir, because you always have to add the choir, right? And so I think at this point, it feels to me we're going through search with Reverend Joe. And I think we're back in a time period of trying to understand what we're really about, who we are as a community, and what our vision is for the future to help facilitate the process of bringing a new minister on board. So it's been sort of, a little bit of a up and down sort of thing. You expand and contract, and it can be for different reasons. It can be because, COVID was certainly a big piece of things, but it can be the minister and how they interact with the community. It can be a group of people aging out. It can be people who had children who really came for the RE program, and their children grow up and their life takes them in other directions. So you have to kind of look at all of that and say, okay, what's really going on here? What do we care about, and what can we offer to the people we hope will join us? I think my hope always for First Parish is that people come and they find a community and they find a place where there is a space for them, and that space can be something very different. And when I was the parish chair and we were working on finding new minister, I learned a lot about how churches work, which I knew nothing about. And, you know, to have, I'm a kind of a person who works in metaphors, to have a number of doors where people can come in and find what they want. So the choir people are in there for life, right? They love the choir, they love singing. That's their place at First Parish. The social justice people and the racial action committee, those people are so committed to that stuff. That's their space. They might not be in the choir, but they have a group within the church that speaks to them. So I hope that we continue, spiritual autobiography is another place where people find a community. I hope that we continue to be agile, flexible, and grow so that people want to be a part of the community. And, we're over 300 years old. So I don't know if it's fair to say I hope 300 years from now we'll still be there, but I hope 10 or 20 or 30 years from now we're still a thriving community. It's a very important place to me. When my son was born, so I don't know if anybody has talked to you about John Ross. Has anybody mentioned John? So when you're in the church and you stand with the apse behind you with the clouds, right? And so you're looking out towards the doors. On the left-hand side, there's a drawing of a man playing the organ. So John Ross was our organist and eventually became our minister of music. And choir director, okay, he was our choir director, eventually became minister of music. And then he was very sick with AIDS very early on in the AIDS epidemic. And he became, I think, artist in residence. But John knew more about music than anybody I've ever met. And he was just, there was no one like John. John was quite something. So we had been talking about having a service for our son when he was born, a baptism or a dedication or a naming or what have you. And I said to John one Sunday, I said, we'd been talking about doing this. And he said, well, what do you mean you've been talking about doing this? The choir's been rehearsing the music for a month. It's happening on this particular Sunday. I said, it is? And he said, yes. I said, well, I haven't told anyone. He said, well, you better go home and tell people. So we did. We went home and we told our family, and we had a dedication and naming service for Ezra. And it was just a very special, very beautiful day for us, and for Ezra, who did grow up in the church. And I think the other day that I would say was really significant for me was when we had the vote to bring Reverend Martha and Reverend Jim, and the church had been in some turmoil that continued for a bit, but to see everybody, and I think the vote was like 99-1 for them, whatever the right numbers were, but to see everybody together, just holding one another arm in arm, welcoming our new ministers and singing was really lovely. Well, I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school my whole life, including Boston College, which is a Jesuit and Catholic university. And in those days, when I was in school, which wouldn't be true now in a Catholic school, I had nuns for my teachers. When I was at BC, I had regular teachers, but I also had, Jesuits as my teachers. And I would say that I have a a really kind of solid sense of who I am and morally how I fit in the world. And I don't regret any of that. But the Catholic Church is not a place that I would be comfortable in this world right now. There are times when I miss the traditions and so on, but there's no, you just can't stand with them with the values they hold for the world. And I think being Unitarian kind of checks all the boxes. You come to church and people are, the seven principles and the things that we stand for, in the sense that everybody and their spiritual journey and their religious beliefs are all of value, and that we should all respect and honor that. The sense of caring for the planet, all those things are very meaningful to me. And I just feel safe and supported, and in a group of people who, in a very, very complicated world, are just trying to keep going, trying to make anything a little better, So I think I'm very pleased to be Unitarian, and to be in this community.
When other people ask me, like when I say that the church I go to is Unitarian Universalist, they ask me, what is it? And, it's something that I struggle with. So that's something that I've been trying to get out of this a lot, I think.
Yeah. And you look around, I look around at the people in church, and I don't know as many people as I used to, partially because I'm older and sometimes it's easier to just stay home on a Sunday morning. But there's a common good. And the other thing about it is that, we're not trying to exclude anybody. We don't feel like we're the blessed or saved group. We're just people trying to live our lives every day and help one another out and make the world a better place. And I think that's a really good thing. I think if I really had to pick one, I would probably, and I'd really like to pick three, but I would say the inherent worth and dignity of every person would probably be tops for me. I think the third principle, the acceptance and encouragement of spiritual growth, kind of ties to the first principle. And obviously, the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice is so unattainable right now. I think our generation, I grew up during the time of the protests about the Vietnam War and the civil rights movement and all those things. And our generation, as is happening right now, protested and made our concern for the world, attempted to make it obvious to people. And I think we did change things. And I think our hope had been that we would be changing the world. But I guess that's not a permanent thing. And now it's falling to your generation and others, this question of peace and liberty. And maybe it's just an endless struggle. I don't know. Being a part of First Parish has played a very significant part in my life and in our life as a family. And it's just, even though, as I say, I don't go to church every Sunday because I'm lazy and, all that sort of stuff, but being connected to that community, being woven into the fabric of it, is just a major part of how I see myself sitting in the world. And I'm very grateful for that connection and for the people there that I know and love, and the people there that I don't know, but I'm sure if I took the time to get to know them, I would love them as well. So it's a gift.